Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
David Clark.
David Clark, member Fellows Falls Union High School, representing Westminster, not a voting member of the Fellows, pardon me, of the WNESU board.
Hardy.
I'm Hardy Merrill, Grafton, Vermont, WNUESD.
Chris Kibbe.
Hi there.
Just looking for you to introduce yourself, Chris.
Oh, sorry. Christopher Kibbe, Rockingham School Board member and treasurer of the WNESU.
Cheryl.
Cheryl Charles, representing Westminster School Board.
Jim.
Jim McCall, representing the Rockingham School Board.
Priscilla.
Priscilla Labor, representing the Rockingham School Board and clerk of this board.
Team BLC, Westminster Board.
Molly Bannock, Fellows Falls Union High School chair, representing from Westminster.
Andy Haas, Superintendent of Schools. Jim Vazina, Finance.
Jack Breyer, chair of the Athens Grafton Board and representing them on this board.
Lynn Morgan, from the Athens Grafton Schools.
Jason Terry from the Bells Falls Union High School School Board, vice chair and member of Rockingham community.
Thank you. Adjustments to the agenda.
I don't have any.
Okay. Does anyone have anything they would like to put on the agenda or adjustments to the agenda?
I have a quick one, Molly. It's Chris. If we just under committee, a little item under the finance committee.
We're gonna put a B2 under reports, finance committee. Anyone else?
Well, I think there's something that you were discussing earlier
No.
tonight. Or you decided, okay, fine.
Looks like that's all we have. Communication and public comments. Nothing. Jason, do you have something to say?
Nope.
Okay. Review and approve board minutes for January 4th.
We checked, we have not received those yet, and so I have to follow up with your recorder. So I apologize for that.
Okay. Reports, central office reports. Jim, you're up, finance.
All right, I will do exactly that.
Over.
Thank you.
There.
I'll sit over here.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So your last financial report was on December 30th. And not a lot has changed within the past 18 days. But this report, I wanted to kind of go, because this one I downloaded right off from eFinance. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The page one, the first page, or excuse me, it's marked page 2. That's dealing with substitutes at each of the schools. And this is going to be ending up a bill back at the end of the year. I'm trying to think of a way that we can at least put some encumberment piece so that we can kind of recognize that there's going to be an expense pushback later on. So I want to try to do that. The other pages follow I'm looking at, on page 3. And it doesn't look like it tracked exactly on the function detail. But, but I do wanna, the last page, which deals with the, not the last page, excuse me. The, food service, and again, I think as I mentioned to you last time, that's page 14. So 14 and 15. And that just deals with, there's an overage on the expense side. And if you track that to page 15, you can see, you know, we're over 616,000. Now, as I mentioned to you before, there's income from the state, which probably is not in here as yet. You also have revenues from the summer programming. So I think this is going to balance out fine. Don't see any issue with it. Just on the revenue sheets, which is page 16. And I think that's the last page. And that shows just the, I don't have this line, but the budget, there's two pieces that look like their assessment. And that second one is really the special education reimbursement from the state.
That's not the SU assessed rate or, oh.
Yes, which is, it says 2,519,354.
Yeah, because it says SU assessed regular twice. Which
Yes.
is one of them is not, right?
One of them is not. One of them is that special education payment by the state of Vermont. So, again, I think everything is on track. Don't see any issues at all. We did receive for transportation. It was 75,263, which is the state reimbursement for vocational transportation.
Right.
And we will eventually receive some monies. And again, the budget didn't get in here, but I imagine it'd be 200,000-300,000 just for the regular reimbursement for transportation as well.
That's your, they're all 1,001. That's third,
Correct.
third from the bottom on that first
Yeah.
block. 16.
Yes.
Okay.
So, boy, I'll be glad. And I will say that Erica is working with the new company, Infinite Visions, which is the old system was ProFund,
Right.
ADS, Advanced Data Systems, and she's working on setting up the integration of the new system now. So hopefully we will slide right in when that in the May timeframe. And
I'm gonna run these in parallel still. Is that still the plan? You're not gonna do a cold port, are you?
well, we'll see how close we get. My fish, I just will say this, every day we go like this, that e-finance is going to last until then.
And, you know, I won't be here for the disaster. I just want to make sure that you guys are all, you know.
We've got everything set up in e-finance. There's no reason that, and it's going to stay. The database is going to stay there.
Okay.
We're not dumping that database because obviously we don't know what the future is.
Okay, as long as they're running in parallel and you don't get yourself on,
What are other surrounding districts using as opposed to e-finance?
Most, well, 80% in the state
Yeah,
are using this Infinite Vision,
okay.
which was used to be called ProFund, which was the earlier version,
Mhm.
and everybody loved it. I mean, this thing functions so intricately.
Mhm.
But they've decided that they're gonna phase this out, and it was 2 years ago, they were gonna phase it out in 5 years. So, interestingly, the Hartford School District is going to be converting in January, and they're gonna come down to see what issues and, you know, problems that we've had in our conversion. So there's a lot of people that are converting now over to Infinite Vision.
And I think like Wyndham Central is on e-finance, and I don't think they are planning on going away because the state's left it up to each SU, what do they want to do? And so I think they've gotten comfortable with it, so they're not. Look at that.
We were also early adopters for the self-mistakes. Jim?
Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah. Oh, one question. I mean, I know that we've said that, you know, we're anticipating that between remittances from other programs, the summer program and all the rest of it, the school nutrition thing is gonna end up
Yes.
washing properly. Has there been any discussion, contingency discussions about where this goes in the coming year, given what is now becoming fairly evident that there's going to be at least an attempt to hack that in Congress? Just generally, apparently that school lunch program's got a target on its back.
I've always been concerned with it. Now that the state of Vermont is involved,
Yeah.
uh,
Big hole to fill. They were gonna try to fill it, so it's
an enormous hole to fill. And again, I do not receive a lot of clear answers for what the future looks like for payments. I mean, are they gonna go up 10% next year for reimbursements? I have no idea.
I'm just concerned that,
Well, it'll be what it'll be.
well, but the thing is, if that money from, you know, the federal part of that money goes away in part, which is increasingly a fairly good bet. I just think that some contingency planning, you know, would be a good thing, because it's the biggest potential, you know, black hole in your budget in the upcoming year.
This, and keep in mind, for the past 3 years, there's essentially been a paid program.
Right.
Now, where this gets a little frustrating for those in the trenches is your Title I programs depend on a free and reduced lunch application.
Right.
How many of you think we've received?
Yeah, that has been a definite struggle for us this year. And I will say that, you know, Harley has been working some magic to bring in every
Absolutely.
single one of them. And you know, works pretty closely with our school secretaries to make sure that we're getting, you know, the kids we need to get, and if, you know, and helping families, because that's really what it's about. And,
Sure.
you know, but that is when Universal was presented, that was the one fear I had was.
And Andy, this is happening all over the state. This isn't just us, not just Hartford. But who is gonna fill out the free and reduced applications with some pertinent information of how much income you make and turn it back in? I'm gonna get the free lunch. Why would I do that?
Seems like they should be able to use tax information to do that themselves instead of asking parents to do it.
There hasn't been a
Based on
response.
income.
You know, it's that federal program, and it's how it's always been done. I mean, but I don't disagree with you. It's tedious and often, you know, despite in many schools where I've worked and in districts, you know, where our numbers are, we always know it's higher than need.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
but trying to get families, and, you know, we see like at the high school, our numbers they dwindle for students at the high school, because they're just less apt to turn the, for many reasons, and so it's a challenge.
My only reason I'm bringing this up is just because of concern about the need for contingency planning should things go south. I think this board's pretty much unanimous about the merit. It's just a question if this suddenly becomes an unexpected $600,000 cost that we didn't plan. That's real money.
Yep.
Chris, I see your hand up.
It is. It's not about the food service program though. So in the interest of keeping that string going, if there are other comments, I would defer to those.
I think you're up.
Okay. And this is going back to e-finance and kind of just based on what I've read in reliable media is my understanding is that the legislative mandate to switch to e-finance has not gone away. And so something is going to have to be done legislatively to either extend the deadline or allow other companies to do this or to get a new grant or something. But anyway, if you all are friends and companions with your representatives and senators, this is actually an item that bears, it doesn't sound very sexy to them, but needs to be attended to, because if nothing has changed, we're actually still all obligated to go to e-finance within a few years.
Go ahead, Jim.
Chris, I called Bill Bates, who's the chief financial officer at the Agency of Ed. And I was hoping to get some contribution from the Agency of Ed towards our new product. And he said, well, Jim, we're not there yet. I said, is there any concern for us going into the new product? He said, during this waiver period, he said, you have an option of whatever you want to go into. It's not, you're held harmless, whatever you pick. But my understanding is they did a survey, and that survey was supposed to be brought before the Ed Legislative Committee, and they were supposed to make a final decision in January. I know that the survey was kind of harsh on e-finance with what it did. And I think it was very clear from some of the Agency of Ed people who were responsible that it was very clear what was going to be the outcome. So.
Right. Well, the VT, there's a really good article in VT Digger not too long ago about this. So you all might want to have a glance at that. But like I say, right now, eventually the legislature has to do something because they've passed this law that would move us all onto it. So just something to keep them apprised of when you're having coffee.
Jason.
Thank you, Molly. Jim, I was just wondering, there was a newspaper article in the Brattleboro Reformer about reassessing the properties in Rockingham because of how inflated the sale of houses have been recently in the last couple of years. And they were saying that they might reassess all of the properties. I was just wondering, in your expert opinion, with all the boards here, how would you guide us in writing a budget with that in mind?
This is somewhat of a Vermont situation because I think we went up around 8%, somewhere in there. This is the common level of appraisal. And I believe that if you look at, and again, it's somewhere in 150 towns and cities, that it was 125, I think, that had to go for a reappraisal. And I would have thought they could have come up with a methodology instead of everybody paying 50,000 or whatever it costs to reappraise.
More than that.
Is it? But I would have thought that rather than have everybody chip that money in and say, hey, we got to get it reappraised. That's what the office says, that there would have been a methodology for boosting everybody's up, you know, to keep that balance and not have to go through a formal reappraisal. Now, I think there's a lot of towns that are looking at having the listers, qualified listers, look at trying to balance that out.
That's what Rockingham's gonna do.
Yeah. But how would you guide us to write a budget? Would you guide us to be conservative or?
Jason,
I'm looking for your expert opinion. I don't have the answer.
I will say this, and out of any budget that I think Andy and I go through, I think we are conservative. I think we are, it's never, never trying to get as much as we can. I think we're trying to be on the downside, if anything. And even if you were a rich community, I would say you're always better off in that direction. And I will say this in case Burlington passed their school budget, 10% increase, $104 million of money in that community up there. And for me, 10% is a lot on the tax rate.
Thank you, Molly.
Anyone else have questions for Jim? All right, Andy, you're up. Jim. No. Thank you.
Unless he
Jim.
likes to stay.
No, I want to stay. Thank you.
So I passed out my report. I can read through it if you want me to go through it, or if there's just questions, I can answer those questions.
Jim,
One of the items on Andy's list is the switch from the S back to the whatever, Corinthians.
Yeah.
Corinthians 2. Yeah, and and there was some angst expressed at our meeting, at the Rockingham meeting, about, you know, why do they do the switch and this and that, and you know, a lot of good questions about why they're doing it. I think my feeling is, you know, if this comes from on high, we're wasting our time to wring our hands. We just need to get on with it. I think the issue of the differences of the different techniques that are involved in this test versus the SBACs will have effect on some kids, I'm sure. But I think, again, when we get to comparing our results to the state's results, we're not on an island. We are going to take the same tests that they're going to take at every other town in the state. And I think that we'll hope that we don't see a big drop. But I think if we do see a big drop, we should expect to see a drop. I mean, it's sort of like how low can you go? But if we do see a drop, I suspect we'll see the same drop in the state numbers. So I would hope that we're not spending a lot of time worrying about the switch rather than getting ready to do the work. So
At our level, that's what we're doing. I mean, we're focusing on, you know, what's the assessment going to look like? How do we provide the assessment? And you know, when we get an opportunity to get, you know, in the hands of teachers, samples and stuff like that, we'll be pushing that out and trying to get, you know, students up to speed as fast as we can. I think one of the things we're also going to have to look at is how does Cognia and our MAPS, which is our local assessment, the NWEA, how do they align? They should align very well, because MAPS is such a big organization. So that'll be more interesting to me than I agree with you. Everyone's taking the Cognia. So if if everyone's dropping, everyone's dropping, so.
And it shouldn't, there should not be a drop. It's just a different platform. It's assessing the exact same things.
So
There's
we,
still the Common Core standards. It's still assessing the Common Core standards. It's just a different platform.
what I was explaining to Rockingham was, a new superintendent, in a nearby district was sharing with the other superintendents where they came from in another state. They used Cognia. They had used SBAC, then went to Cognia.
Mhm.
And what they noticed was that Cognia is very language rich,
Mhm.
as even more than SBAC.
Mhm.
And so they saw their students struggle with Cognia that first year that it was introduced, because it was, the format was very different for the students. So, and so that was just knowing that that was in the forefront, and when I was writing this, just wanting to pass that along, so.
Yeah,
Just, again, the concern I have with any of these metrics is when you see when there's a lack of internal consistency in the metric, and you see these wild variances year to year and class to class. You got to be very careful about what you're looking at in terms of, how much you're going to study, how much you're going to write to the, do things to the test, how much you're going to analyze data, because if you have that kind of internal inconsistency, good statisticians are going to tell you that the data is not very good. And this may not be, maybe people aren't necessarily going to line up for this, but I just got to say, it is a metric. No problem using it as a metric, but you got a lot of other metrics, and you really want to pay attention to the ones that show all the metrics are going to show those same variations, but if they don't, then the one that you tend to discount is the one where the data is internally inconsistent.
Can I say something? I forgot I'm supposed to go through you. I apologize.
Go ahead.
I do, this is like a huge part of my job is looking at assessment and that kind of stuff in schools. I will say the SBAC is it is not I don't think it gives you a full picture of a student, who they are as a person, but when a student scores as proficient on the SBAC, they are proficient. And generally students who score as not or approaching proficiency or not proficient at the time, that is an accurate measure of their current levels in terms of where they are in terms of the standards. And there are wild variations, because if in schools, there are wild variations between classes and cohorts of students. And so I respectfully disagree with you that you can see wild variations between a second and a third grade class, and it's because of their students and their children. It's the cohort of kids. So I don't think it's not a predictor, sorry.
Well, that's okay, you finish, I want you to finish. I was told that there was a comment on the radio just before we came in here, and there is a definite drop across the country in scores this year. And I think that the drop was approximately 10% that we're looking at for 8th and 9th graders. And so you're going from a 40% to a 30%. We were down before this started. This is this year because of just all the stuff that we were doing anyway. And having to restrict and not getting the same kind of instruction. So hopefully, even with the new one, maybe not first year, but hopefully we'll see a trend in the right direction with the instruction improving.
Any other questions for Andy? Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Molly. Is Andy done with his thing? I just wanted to say then that I saw recently that a local superintendent, and I'm glad I came because I get to talk to all the board members at the same time, which is kind of cool. I kind of miss being here sometimes. Local superintendent received a 2-year contract, and it seems like that particular, and I like to run my own race, stay my own lane. But just want to throw a shout out to Andy that he's doing a great job, and appreciate how he never feels comfortable on a day-to-day. And he always, Well, no,
It's true, yeah.
seriously, and people that are comfortable kind of just go through the motions. And I think Andy does not, in my opinion, doesn't go through the motions and is trying hard each day to improve the overall experience for the kids. And I appreciate that. And, you know, I'm not sure when his contract is up or whatever, but, you know, I appreciate he's not comfortable and he appreciate every day he's trying hard. And, you know, thank you, Andy. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate that.
Anyone else for our superintendent?
Just a question on transportation, Molly. I was wondering if, Annie could just speak to any impact that the closures and the slowdown now with just one lane on 121 is having for our transportation.
Yeah, thank you, Priscilla, and I do apologize, I actually meant to put that in the report. So we started tracking right as we came back from the holiday, and we found a consistent, 15-minute delay was happening. But it wasn't, we got messaging out to folks that that's what it was going to be. Parents were accommodating to us to realize that was what the delay is going to be. We stopped doing that tracking once we knew it was going back to the one way, it was opening back up. And I haven't heard anything as far as it. I think one of the, there was an accident on back Westminster Road one day, and we checked in with the state troopers because we wanted to make sure, we were told it would be cleared up beforehand, so we didn't have to do anything. So we've gotten, good communication on it with BSP and with with the towns and the highway crews. So haven't heard that. I think, again, when the 121 bridge goes down, that's a very long-term piece. And that's when, so we wanted to track, so we've got data. So I anticipate that we're gonna have to be looking at some adjusting of start times in the future when that bridge goes down.
I'm gonna say the Vermont State, the transportation, V-Trans has had multiple plans for how to deal with that for routing the traffic. And I don't know, I know some of the towns have expressed concern that they're not getting communicated. There's been a lack of communication. Are you feeling a little more comfortable than they are?
We've had the nudge. I'm not gonna, we kind of hear some things, and so then we call and start nudging, but when we find the right people to call, then we know to keep going back to those people, so.
Just what they presented to the towns when this is happening seems to be a lot different from what's actually happening.
Yeah.
That's a concern.
Molly, just to follow up, any prediction on when it's going to go down? None?
I mean, April is still in my head, but I don't know, and yeah.
That's fine.
Andy, I appreciate the early call-in snow days for like parents and planning. Instead of the 6 a.m. call, it's nice to have the advance warning. Friday is probably gonna snow.
For full disclosure, we've already started tracking that, and we're looking at that. I've already had a conversation with road superintendent, and we'll continue to track that. If we can make a prediction and make an early call, we'll try and make a call around, I would say no later than 5 o'clock tomorrow. That's usually what I use as a target time. And just for families and everyone to understand, my understanding is there's a second storm coming Sunday night, which could greatly impact Monday. So I hope people don't mind me calling on a weekend. But it's just a prediction.
Any other questions for Andy? Okay, let's move on to, thank you, Andy. Let's move on to committee updates. We have building and grounds. We had a building and grounds informal meeting where we went around to the rest of the schools that we hadn't seen. Got a good look at everything. We went to the Westminster West School, the Westminster Elementary School, and Central Elementary. And There were kiddos in every place but the West, so we were able to see what it looked like with kids in there and you know, see what kind of space is available, and we will have the next meeting will be a roundtable discussion on what we saw. I'm sure that we all have questions or comments about space or about, you know, room sizes and how to just make the best out of our buildings that we have. You know, nobody wants to give up a room. Everybody says all the rooms are packed. Some of them are packed with furniture. Some of them are packed with 2 kids. You know, that's not, we just wanna have some real facts from, I hope, the principals, you know, on really what they have and, you know, how we can help some of these places that are overpacked. And, you know, we have a lot of people in, you know, in office space that maybe is tight for what they're trying to do. And the whole idea when we started this is to see what was out there. You know, if we ask all of our principals, I'm sure they're gonna tell us that they have no room. But our hope is that by us being able to see it and by having Andy with us, Jim too is such a wealth of knowledge about schools, you know. He wouldn't come right out and say, but you know, you could see him say, what is in that room? So, you know, it was it was nice to get out and see things. I don't know what's gonna come of it, but I think that we have a lot of questions. I think we have a lot of questions for the principals, the maintenance staff, you know, what does it mean, you know? But it's gonna take some time. This isn't something that we're just gonna be able to, you know, pull the wheel down and decide what goes where. And I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but it is nice to see what space is out there. And I do think that we have space probably in every building if we can get people to admit that. So that's gonna be our next, you know, thing I think that we're looking at as a building and grounds is we're looking at space. We've talked about, you know, where to put people for so long. And this is the first time I've ever been through all the schools and to see, you know, what's available. You know, I went through all the reports I could find through, you know, all the years that I've been doing this. The enrollment has gone down a couple hundred kids in the last 10 years from what I could find. You know, we still have classes in each school. I think we just gotta work together as a board and work well with the principals to see what they'll open their eyes to, I guess. That's really all we did. We didn't make any decisions. We had some nice conversation and we went about our way. Jack?
I think one of the things that people did come away with, and just speaking for myself, I heard this from others, was we saw places through this process where there were real alarm bells and things that really need to be dealt with yesterday. But we also saw places, sometimes unexpected places I didn't expect to see real best practices in terms of the way spaces were lit, the way that they were organized, the way that they were colored in some cases, that really were instructive in terms of what we do for the long-term planning of some of our facilities. There's some things that were done that weren't expensive, but really made a difference in terms of the lighting, the ambience of the space. And that was really a useful exercise. And just for the record, we are collecting sort of master layouts of these buildings. So we're going to really have that to guide us, because it's something that we should have had 10 years ago, and we're going to have that accessible to us. And I think that's a great place to kick off whatever happens going forward the next year.
Michelle?
Just a quick comment for the record. The only reason we didn't see children or students in Westminster West is because of the time of day that we got there. Otherwise, we would have seen children there as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say, you know, what started me on this information quest was the feeling that the supervisory union building in Westminster wasn't adequate to handle the staff that was there. And so, building a new building just scared the Jesus out of me from a taxpayer standpoint. And so I thought it'd be very helpful to look at what we've got. Well, my feeling with working the various boards, working closely with Andy, I think if there are groups of people, et cetera, that need a home other than in Westminster, we can accommodate that. I have no question about that. So I think this idea about whether that Westminster building is ideal for the future, I'm not going there, but I think that certainly if there's a need for certain people to be housed in the various buildings, we've got room in those buildings to do that. I think that the other thing that jumped out at me was I really felt that the condition of the high school, physical condition of high school, stood out in comparison to the other buildings as something that really needs updating. And I know we're well into ESSER and we've got a bunch of things going, but I honestly think that where all the towns are joint ventures in this building, that we really should concentrate as much of that money on updating this place. God knows how much excess space you might find here if you updated it. I mean,
you get rid of all the cubbies.
but clearly our 6 buildings, or I'm not counting Westminster West, but that's a special case. But the 6 buildings, the 3 in Rockingham, the Westminster Central School, the Grafton School, and the high school, we have got mucho space for 1,000 kids. I'm telling you, now configure wise and stuff like that, that always has to be addressed. I think as things change, students change, curriculums change, and those types of things. But basically, I think we're in decent shape. I think some of the buildings presented better than others, but clearly, I think I would summarize it and say we really don't have a space problem as long as we do it properly, analyze it properly, and secondly, we ought to focus on this building.
Anyone else have any questions for Building and Grounds? Okay, let's move on to Chris Kibbe to ask for Finance Committee.
You're
Yeah,
muted there, Chris.
I didn't want to interrupt Jim. He was on such a nice roll there. So I wanted to give a heads up to the Finance Committee members. I'd like to call a meeting probably February, maybe March if we have to. It's the issue that needs to be resolved has to do with cash flow at the WNESU in relation to grants. And I don't want to explain it all. It's actually, I believe, a fairly simple fix, but we do need to be in agreement about it. So if those folks who are on that committee would just send me their availability, because I think some people are going on vacations and things like that over the next couple of months. I'd appreciate that. And also any other topics that you want the committee to discuss. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Is there any old or unfinished business anyone would like to talk about? I have nothing on the agenda. I don't see any. New business for discussion and action. Do we need to go into executive session for an appointment? It doesn't feel like we should, but you talk to me.
I don't think we need to, the candidate that we're bringing forward is not new to us. It's a former employee who's, being the prodigal child and returning to us, and we're actually, I'm very excited to bring her name, to the board,
So you got the floor.
all right, so, Heather Smith, is, a special educator who came to work for us a few years back, and she had an opportunity to go out on a venture, and that didn't work out for her, unfortunately. And but when she left on very good standings with us. And when she left, I said, you know, hey, look, if you ever want to get back into you know, or get back into teaching, please call me first. And about a week or so ago, I got an email from her saying, I'm just going to check with you before I check with other districts. And so, you know, and so Miss Alexander put together just a brief little piece that we sent out to you, you know, just kind of updating you on what's going on. But she's applied for a position. We'd love to welcome her back into our SU. We'd like to get her started as of January 23rd. She would begin at Central Elementary because we have a case manager there who just went on an unexpected medical leave, and we have a gap in services there. So this would be, but Heather's one of those folks that they come from that odd breed where they like to work at the middle school. And she's at the middle school, wants to go back to the middle school. So we really want to move her back there. So we have contingency plans. If the person who's on medical leave, if they're able to come back sooner, we're going to flip her up there sooner, type of stuff. But she'd be coming in where she left at a master's, step 6. And so we're just asking for your support.
Do you need a motion of this board to do? And question is on that, is this a contingent thing? You said something about there's another person.
No. So we have open position. We have an open position. Yes. So I want to be very clear. Yes, we have an open position. She's someone we're hoping to hold on to for a long time. And so it has, she's not filling that medical leave piece. We just, when we were going to bring her on, we were going to place her at the middle school, and then the medical leave happened. So we need to adjust that to address that issue in the interim before we can get her up to the middle school.
Andy, how long would the medical leave be?
At this point in time, I don't know.
You don't know, okay.
So
But then you're planning for, I think I heard you right, to the middle school.
we would move her to the middle
For
school.
one of those virtual.
Yeah, so it'd be either like, I mean, if we found out that person was coming back, you know, I'm guesstimating here, we found out that person's coming back after February, you know, our February break, then that's when Heather would make that switch. If it gets extended out, you know, worst case scenario in my head through the whole school year, then we would look to have her there at the middle school next year. I mean, the students at the middle school are getting the services that are outlined in their IEP right now. We've got students who at the central, and so that's the reason we're trying to make that adjustment. But
And she was at the middle school when she left.
correct.
Okay.
Lynn, could I have that motion to appoint special educator Heather Smith?
Also moved later.
What she said.
Do we need to put in there at a master's step 6?
You should.
Any other questions for Andy before we go to vote? Hardy,
Aye.
Chris,
Yay.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Jim,
Yay.
Priscilla,
Yes.
Team,
Yes.
Jack,
Oh, yeah.
Lynn.
Yes.
Okay, welcome aboard, Heather Smith.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Very excited.
We have made it to director's comments. Hardy,
I have none tonight. I'm recovering.
Chris,
I do have one, folks who follow the news will have noticed that there's a big push being put, I guess, on the legislature for early childhood education and help grow kids folks are lobbying very heavily. But I want to go back to Jim Benzina's piece from our last meeting. The legislature really needs to fix the retirement system before it goes and spends hundreds of millions of dollars on another initiative. And there are, last year, a legislative report was created in January that had some solutions. The unions opposed it. But again, when you're having coffee with your reps and senators, if you could just encourage them to stop kicking the can down the road on the teachers' retirement system, it would really be very helpful. That's my comments.
David,
Thank you, Molly. Am I correct that we had in-service day yesterday?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
wonderful. Was attendance taken at the schools where these in-services were provided? I'm always interested in what attendance looks like on the day after a long weekend. Martin Luther King Day representing the day before the in-service day. Thank you, Molly.
Lynn,
I don't know if it's just that I don't catch things well enough, but I thought we had said that e-finance was not, had been taken off and that we were able to go onto our own system and that's what we were doing. So I'm confused that we're still having to deal with e-finance. So it seems like I have different information this time.
Help you with that offline.
Jim?
Oh, you're skipping around. I just like, as far as, I want to talk about, I mentioned the budget season this year. We're finished at the WNESU and we're finished in Rockingham. And just what a difference it was this year in terms of the ability, all due respects to e-finance, the ability of Jim and the staff with his guidance to put together the packages that he's put together and the quantity of information and the quality of the information. It really made it a very easy process. And I know that's from a numbers guy. I know it's probably not as easy for people that are not comfortable with accounting, but believe me, this was a wonderful step forward for our district.
Yeah.
My friend Jiggs used a magic phrase that I want us to emphasize: joint venture. He's exactly right. What we have, this body and bodies we represent really need to think of themselves as operating as a joint venture to the greatest extent we possibly can. We have our own board members are accountable to their own constituencies, but operationally, we try to work together as much as we possibly can. One of the reasons why we have a budget process that now extends to more of a year-round finance management one is because we need to closely coordinate. We're meeting we're meeting as a joint team doing our buildings and grounds because things like where's the money really going to go? Well, if we were just parochial, we wouldn't see that we have some really great best practices at places like Center School, and we have some really major needs at places like the high school. If we think of ourselves as a joint venture, that's how we work together and we solve those problems. And I just, I hope that that's a phrase that gets bounced around a lot, because it exactly represents what I think the future of our community of boards and this SU board does going forward. And I thank you for tuning that phrase, because I hope we use it on a regular basis.
Team?
I appreciate the length of the meeting tonight.
Here,
Jason?
Thank you, Molly. So I've been on school boards. This is March will be my third year, and it feels like it's been a lot longer than that. And I just want to say nothing beats good management. And sometimes I feel that you know, I think Andy's done a really good job of cleaning things up. If you think about the people that are no longer in the schools. And I think that sometimes it almost represents the movie The Firm with Tom Cruise, where you know, not quite as bad, but I think at times I'm baffled about how the high school is run. And I know Andy will not let people get comfortable, and Andy does not feel comfortable. And then in business, I never feel comfortable because I'm always trying to improve every day. And if you have a situation where your employees feel comfortable, then that's not a good spot to be. So Andy, keep up the good work and keep going forward. Thank you.
Cheryl?
I'd actually like to echo what Jim McCullough, what Jace was saying, having to do with this budget season. And when you think about our business office and all of the changes and all the challenges that have gone on there, the fact that that office has been trying to straighten out miscoding and problems with just the basics of the day in and day out, and then to come up with 5 budgets for all of these districts that are involved here. It's really, really well done. And we're in Westminster deeply appreciative of all the help we've gotten, not just from Mr. Vizina and the office, but from you, Andy, as well. So thank you.
Priscilla?
Yes, I appreciate the wealth of ideas that the board members all bring to meetings. It really allows us to think outside the box sometimes and to come together with some fantastic end results. And keeping in mind that the desire is to help the students achieve and still be responsible to our taxpayers. That's a big, big responsibility for any board member and for the boards together. So having that and being able to work with the business office and with Andy and being able to see all that they put into this as well, and all of our principals and administrators, is just a wonderful experience to be able to be here and share that. So I just appreciate them totally, and I want them to know that and keep in mind that, to keep sharing that and keep being appreciative and respectful and caring for all of our students and faculty and community.
So, I'm pretty excited to think that as we come together as a group and we go and look at all these schools, that everybody agrees that the high school needs some serious attention. I've been saying it for years, and I think that, I hurt people's feelings because I tell them that when I walk in the front door, it looks pretty dingy. And, you know, they start defending themselves, but the truth of the matter is, you know, when you walk down through our high school, all our cubbies and our 4 or 5 different colors on one wall is, you know, it's just, it's time to clean it up. Throughout the other schools, Jim is exactly right. We've got some really nice facilities. And we've got some facilities that have kept up with, maintenance well, and then there's some that need a little bit of work, but the high school has nobody. Administration in high school for a long time has not really wanted to do anything to keep it up to date and to not make it look like it was 1969. And I'm pretty excited to think that we're working on a plan, and, I think that it is, maybe I'm a little more passionate about the high school because that's the one that I've been on the board the longest and spent a lot of time in the high school. But I think it's important for everybody. It's where all our kids, most of our kids are gonna end up is in the high school. Very few of them will go somewhere else, and it needs some work, needs some cleaning up, needs some changing. It was a good experience to go around to all the other schools. I don't disagree with any of you. Andy, keep up the good work. Jim has been awesome. I've asked Jim. Jim is a guy who, in his position, could be very unapproachable if he was that guy and could get away with it. And I walk in and I step into his office, and the first thing he does is, "Sit down, Molly." And I'll ask him a question that I don't understand something, or I need information on something. And in all the years I've been involved in the boards, I've never felt as comfortable with our finance director as I do with him. He's very eager to help. He's very eager to get me that information. And so kudos for you getting Jim and for Jim doing such a good job, because it has made the budget season so much better. So thank you very much. The date of the next meeting is February 15th. Is that gonna be early?
Can you say the first? Yeah.
February 1st?
We're gonna have a meeting on February 1st.
Okay. February 1st. That doesn't conflict with this high school annual meeting. Then, right?
We were told that at the end of February.
It is. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the next meeting is February 1st, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.